By now, you've learned how CSS styles individual HTML elements. But how does the web browser know where to place the elements on the screen? The web browser's normal way of calculating the position of HTML elements on the screen is called document flow. By default, nearly all HTML elements are organized into one of two categories, namely in block and inline elements. A block-level element will occupy the full horizontal width of its parent element and the vertical height of its content. Each block-level element will have a new line before and after. Therefore, multiple block-level elements will stack on top of each other like a stack of boxes. Inline elements only occupy the width and height of their content. They don't appear on a new line, hence the name inline. Therefore, multiple inline elements can form a row of elements. When coding in HTML, you need to be able to recognize and use block elements. Some examples of block-level elements include the tags div, form, and heading. You also need to be familiar with common inline elements. These include the tags anchor, image, input, label, bold, italics, emphasis, and span. Let me demonstrate the difference between block and inline now by using an example of an HTML file containing div and span elements. Okay, so I've opened Visual Studio Code here. I will now demonstrate an example where you will learn about document flow. First, I want you to notice that I have a div element containing 3 sentences of lorem ipsum. A div or divider element is used to divide content into sections. If you don't speak Latin, don't worry. Lorem ipsum is placeholder text that has been used since the 1500s. Each sentence contains a span element that you may recall are inline elements. Notice that all text is displayed in an unbroken flow of content in the browser. In the code, I have div and span elements. I am now going to change the middle sentence from a span to a div tag. Because the div tag is a block-level element, notice that the sentence has been moved to a new line and the span element after it is also on a new line. It's possible to change elements from block level to inline and vice versa. This can be done using the display CSS property. Let me add a CSS file called style.css. In my HTML file, let me give the middle sentence div element an ID. I now add a rule in the CSS file to change the element to an inline element. To create the CSS rule, I type #middle and open the curly brackets. On the next line, I type display : space inline semicolon, and on the next line, I close the curly brackets. Notice that the div has now changed to an inline element. If I want to change it back, I can just remove the property. I have deleted the rule in the code to change the element to an inline element. Another way to achieve this outcome is to set the display property to block. I have now changed the value for display to block. In another video, I'll demonstrate to you that there are other values you can set for the display property to change the layout behavior of an element. Congratulations! You have now learned about block and inline elements in HTML. It's important for developers to be comfortable working with each and to know the differences. It's vital to keep in mind that block elements start on a new line and span the entire page, and inline elements work within the flow of the surrounding content, rather than breaking onto their own line.